Today's episode is sponsored by Dynasty Athletic Performance and NC Football Connections.
What's up, everyone? Welcome to the All Season 365 podcast. Be sure to follow us on X, Facebook, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Spotify channel, and now Apple Podcast channels. Man, we're growing. Our ultimate goal here is to, connect with as many coaches as possible, not just here in North Carolina, but across the country. Today's featured guest is not here in North Carolina. He has roots from North Carolina, but he doesn't live here in North Carolina. We have a return guest from season 1, Coach Fogg. How are you, man?
Hey, man, I'm doing well. Blessed to be on the platform again. It's always a good thing to be on here.
Man, appreciate you for making time. You're pretty busy, man. You're doing a lot of stuff. You're doing some training. You have coached. You've been working Under Armour. Before we get to today's topic, which is about running back player fundamentals, give our listeners an update about your coaching journey to this point.
So my coaching journey to this point, I'm currently a free agent now. I was coaching at Collins Hill for the past 2 to 3 years. We made some great strides there, coached a lot of great ball there and a lot of great players there that we have playing P4 ball now. And I just enjoyed my time, and we still got kids getting ready to sign, to great Division II programs. And the younger kids are getting offers now. So the work has been, the proof is in the pudding. And I've been very gracious for the opportunity to coach there. And now currently I'm strictly training running backs and, working camps around the area. So, just very excited where God has taken me on my journey, but still working in the community and helping kids get to where they need to go, helping parents, kind of like, a consultation type of ordeal. I just want to help the community out as best as I can, for kids, and give them the best track.
Absolutely, man. Well, thank you for the update, man. So before we get to today's topics, there's 2 talking points I want to touch bases with you on. The first is the coalition experience. You've been a proud member for quite some time. They opened up a number of different avenues and doors, but give us an update about your experience in that, because I'm a proud member as well, but give us an update about your experience thus far in that.
So the coalition has been God sent. I have never been a part of an organization quite like this. They have kind of fast tracked my career, networking with coaches, kind of rubbing elbows with people, great coaches from every level, NAIA, D3, D2, D1. It's a lot of great coaches, and attending their podcast as well. Every, Zoom link they have, Coach Zoe, he does an outstanding job.
Yes.
Miss Jave, and they're the reason why I'm able to work Under Armour camps, having the availability to do that. And, me and you met at the Under Armour game about 2 years ago, about a year. Well, I guess it's going on 2 years now, but time flies, man. But, being able to be a part of that and working with Coach Jason and Billy Tucker has been a blessing, and being brought back was a blessing again. So I just really feel like, the coalition has put not only just, spotlight on, fast tracking, networking, but it's gave a lot of nuggets about the business. How should you move? How should you go about, in an interview setting? How should you talk to parents? It's real rehabilitating as a coach to get that type of information, because sometimes when we jump head first into this business, we don't know everything
at all.
Have guys that have put the groundwork in, like Coach Zoe and what my man from Memphis, Coach Rodney Salisbury, those people like that. I look up to those people, and I look up to you as well. You guys have been in the business for a long time, and just hearing the advice and kind of having that mentorship has been great.
Yeah, and you brought up a good point, because I've been there since day one in the coalition, and to see the growth is fantastic, man. But what I appreciate most about it, like you said, is the commitment to being a true pro. They make it crystal clear. Our job here is not to get you jobs. Our job here is to prepare you to apply and land that job. But once you land that job, you have to be ready to rock and roll by retaining the information that we share. So that's what I appreciate most about it. Like you also said, the networking opportunity, you and I, we crossed paths at the Under Armour in Orlando, Florida. been in contact since. And even Coach Rodney, man, he hopped up here and he was sharing some game about what's going on in Memphis. And again, he just got promoted to the University of Memphis after being a head coach in the area for quite some time, giving back to the community, man. So you brought some good points. But let's talk about this other point. So for those who don't know, Coach is from North Carolina, and I mentioned it, but he also had a chance to work with some very accomplished coaches, for a long time, including one of his coaches, Kendall Ray. He's a good friend of mine. He's still coaching here. In North Carolina. I got a chance to see him today. He coached. I mean, my goodness, he played at Clayton, coached at Middle Creek. That's where you two guys crossed paths, coaching at Wake Forest. But how important was not just his mentorship as a coach, but any other coach that crossed your path? So how important was that with your development?
That was real important. Coach Ray was a big part of my life. Me and my mom and dad still talk about it to this day. We love Coach Ray. Coach Ray instilled a lot of, he didn't do it for a paycheck. And I'm gonna just be honest.
No way. No, we did.
He did it because he loved the kids. And he helped me out a lot with a lot of advice on what we should do. My teammate that just won the Super Bowl, Darian Young, instilled a lot of, thoughts into him, and it's a lot of good guys. He turned out a lot of good men like myself,
yes, he did.
and just to make him proud. And not only just him, but Coach Harris, Nate Harris that is at Elon right now. I mentioned that I mentioned that to you last season. He was a great impact on my life. And, at that time, he was not the running back coach. He was defensive back coach. Right. Yep. But he played running back at Western Carolina, though. But he was a part of that staff as well. That staff was a great staff that Randy Ragland put together. That was an all-star staff that he put together. That staff had a lot of experience, college coaching, college playing experience. I think about half of that staff played Division I football. People don't know that part neither. They asked, how did we win? Everybody around the area. That staff had a lot of experience, and I learned a lot from that staff too. To this day, some of the stuff that I use is still from that staff, and Coach Ray is a part of that. Some of the stuff that he used to tell us, a champ rep and state champ rep. Well, that's what I used with the guys when I was coaching. Just to give us extra reps, in sprints and conditioning. He played a lot of mental games with us when we was playing, when we was running sprints, but it made us great. It made us great not only as players, but it made us great as men. So, just to hear that he's still out here coaching is a beautiful thing to hear.
Oh yeah, man. And it's funny because, we were just talking about, like, anytime I get a chance to get with the older heads, the true vets of this, I pick their brain, man. We talk scheme too, right? We do talk that a little bit, but a lot of it is, how was it for you coming up? The short track was, hey man, I played at Clayton. I linked up, I played under Coach Fowler. Everyone knows here in North Carolina, he's a Hall of Famer. I worked with Anthony Barber. He was a part of the state championship program for Gardner. One of the first, black head coaches at Middle Creek, and then he went to Smithfield Selma, and the list goes on and on. This guy's connected this guy to this guy to this guy, man. So, yeah, man. So younger coaches, man, make sure that you make time to check in with your older coaches, man, because at the end of the day, dog, like you're selling yourself short if you're not picking their brains about different things, man. So that's pretty dope. So let's get to this running back play, man.
Absolutely.
My opinion, without strong running back play on any level, not just a high school level, it's kind of hard to stack the points up on offense. So, in your opinion, what are the most important fundamentals every running back must master?
They must master first alignment. They got to have good alignment. When they're lining up in the backfield, depending on how the coach philosophy is, you got to have correct alignment. That's one thing. Those steps, it's too many guys that false step these days.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
It has to be constantly coached up. And when I train, that's one of the first things I go through, stance and start. That has to be a part of that running back recipe. That can affect a play where they hit for -2 or plus 20, or TD. So that is one of the basic essentials that I believe that you should start with, is the stance and start. Another part of the essentials is the vision as well.
Oh, yeah. Oh yeah.
The vision has to be on point. People used to joke with me all the time about, hey, you got big eyes and stuff like that, but those big eyes helped me when I was in the backfield. You know what I'm saying? That used to be the thing
Absolutely.
back in the day. But I tell my guys that vision you have to trust your instincts. Your instincts as well. The vision will tell you everywhere you need to go and how you need to go. Trust your vision. Sometimes you don't want to get in a running back's head too much because they got to think.
Yeah.
Because
They'll
sometimes,
slow down. They'll play slow.
right. So, we rather you play fast than play slow, like you said. And the biggest part is really understanding what the blocking scheme is coming
There
up.
you go.
I know I'm compiling answers on top of answers.
Well, no, because that was my next talking point. So how do you teach vision and decision making in different running schemes? I mean, for example, that the gap plays hit different from those zone plays, and not all running backs have that vision. So how do you teach the vision to the backs so that they are successful in any scheme that they run?
Well, the biggest thing is read and react drills.
There you
Especially
go.
everybody pretty much runs zone, for the most part. You got some people that's gonna run pro, and the biggest thing is out of the pro style, you still can run inside zone, outside zone.
Right,
It's just
right.
under center, or you want to call it in the pistol, you can go from there. Understanding number 2 is understanding the aiming points.
Right.
Is it supposed to hit A, hit A gap? Or do you need to bounce? I always go through the zone principles, inside zone principles. The bang, the bend, and the bounce.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
That was the major thing that was hit to me in college. And the coaches that I had instilled that in me, and I still use it to this day. With the kids that I've coached and the kids that I've trained, you got to understand where it can hit, because zone can hit anywhere. It's all about where your eyes and then your placement, of where you put your body through the hole. And then when you see it, you can't hesitate. I see a lot of running backs now, at certain levels, even at college, they hesitate the holes right there and they're not hitting it. You have to hit the hole, and then you got to explode through, get through the second, then burst through the third level, make that last man miss. That's how you become a great back.
And that's how you score that touchdown, man. And that's the difference between the younger backs and the older backs. The older backs or the more seasoned backs understand the importance of making that one guy miss and taking the 80-yard. The younger back, he'll cut and run him over or get ankle tackle, that type of thing. And that's just what it is. But you also brought up another point about scheme. So and it sounds to me like you're doing it with the backs that you work with. It's very important that the backs understand multiple schemes. Just because on high school, right, you might, for any running backs that's listening, high school backs is listening,
right,
or any back, if your high school coach want to run wing T, you have to learn how to run buck sweep, right? That's what it is. Guard trap. You got to understand the blocking. But when you go to these camps, and I notice you get guys ready for the camps, but when you go to these camps, you have to be flexible enough to understand how to run a mid zone versus a duo versus a stretch versus a outside zone.
Right.
You got to understand those entry points, and you got to understand the difference between A, B, C, like A gap, B gap, C gap, or slow too fast through, run through the smoke and all that good stuff. You know what I'm saying? So you brought some good points by simplifying your language so that the kids do understand the patience piece without playing slow.
Right.
Absolutely, man. So let me ask you this: what drills do you use to improve footwork and change the direction?
I just stick to the basics. I really just use, not hurdles, but I use ladders and cones.
Yeah, for the feet.
Bags as well. Yep. The feet has to be fast for running.
Oh, have to.
You might catch a bigger back. He's got heavier feet, or a guy that's in transitioning of growing in the growth spurt, especially between that middle school and high school. They're still growing. So in order to get their feet moving, that ladder is what's going to do it.
Oh, yeah.
That ladder, that 1 foot, 2 feet, icky shuffle, that stuff right there, that's not going away. That type of stuff, those are the basic fundamentals that every running back needs to do, before they can advance to all these advanced drills.
Agreed.
If you don't have that, there's no way you're planting and cutting on a dime. Also, with the cone drills, I like to do a lot of, 5-step plant. Jump cuts. I know in college, that was one of the things I never understood. Like, why was it so many jump cuts? But I understood when I got older in college why. That was one of the main things that they did. Jump cuts, jump cuts, jump cuts. 1-2 plant, getting in and out. You know what I'm saying? It's a one cut and go. I tell all my parents this that I deal with. College don't want to see all that juking and jiving and all that.
Nah, man, playing around, man.
It's a 1-2 cut and that's it, and you hitting it. Because the holes close so fast in college. If you do that, you're gonna get cleaned up. And time is everything, and patience is not what college coaches got when it comes to that stuff.
They really don't, man. They're literally putting their mortgage on the line for you to pan out. And you brought up a lot of great points talking about the fast feet or slow feet. It don't matter if it's a big back or a little back.
Right.
But to add on to what you said about that jump cut, for those who don't know, that jump cut is what's going to help you to keep your shoulders squared. And it's also going to help you to, check A gap or B gap or C gap without losing any speed. So, if any backs are listening to this, if you don't work jump cuts, ask your coach to implement drills to teach you how to jump cut. Because I know in high school, guys can just run and outrun defenses.
Yes.
But on a college level and a pro level, man, forget about it. That's not happening. You got to be able to keep your shoulder square and hit that thing downhill.
Absolutely. And to bring it to that point that you just said, that's what I try to tell my guys. Please stay parallel when you're jump cutting. Or if you're flipping your hips and trying to get skinny, that's another thing as well. I try to work on guys getting skinny through the hole. The more we can do that, advance at the high school level or college level, you can get skinny, the more better off you're going to be. If you can get skinny, you can kind of outdo a lot of people. You know how to get skinny through that hole. So yeah, man.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about pass protection. And I personally think that pass protection in the high school level was undercoached. I've been in some offenses where we want to throw to our back because our back is one of the best receivers on the field, and that's perfectly fine. But I also know the importance of understanding pass protection and being able to do it. So, how do you train pass protection and blitz pickup?
The biggest thing is in blitz pickup. You got to understand your objective is always got to be you're blocking inside to out. All right. Everybody knows that. If you get the inside guy, that's the closest guy to the quarterback.
There you go.
The quarterback responsibility is to roll out because that guy's coming from the backside. He's got to roll out. Everybody knows that that's standard football. That's what they taught in college, and that's still what they teach today. Even now, that should be your principles. Biggest thing is the backs need to step up out of their stance, not false step in the hole and meet the guy.
In the hole. So why is that important that the back step into the hole to pick up the protection as opposed to sitting back and waiting for it? Like, why is that important?
I'm glad you asked that because you see it all the time on TV.
Yes, I do all the time on TV.
Everybody's catching these days. I'm like, why are we catching? There's no reason to catch. You're going to get blowed up, especially at the bigger levels. When these guys are coming with it, you're going to get blowed up. And then you got to sink your hips as well. Just like the old lineman used the term of anchoring, you got to anchor down as a running back. Sit your butt down, anchor down, and then drive through with your hips, all right? And then drive the guy back. That's how you get those pancakes when they come in all hot. You can sit your feet up and ready to, strike, and drive through. And then another thing too, and that's like the inside protection. But the outside protection, when I'm learning, looking at other running back coaches across the country, is kind of splitting the crotch of the defender, whether that's the end or the outside linebacker. You kind of splitting the crotch, of your outside.
Like half a man?
Yeah, half a man. And you're splitting the crotch with your outside leg, and then you're driving him out on the outside because you're taking away the inside leverage.
Correct. Yeah, you definitely got to cut off that inside. Absolutely.
Right. And like I said, I'm learning this. That's a good way to put it. I've always been told a half a man, but it's all about teaching and fundamentals to the kids. What's the best way that they can receive it? And that's a great way to receive it. Looking at a coach that I looked at, he described it that way. And then that can keep a lot of the fluff down in there too. Another thing is getting caught up in the mix with the O-line and pass protection.
Oh yeah.
You got to be very, very clear. I've had some instances like that in my past myself. You know, you getting caught up in the fluff is what I like to call it, instead of deciphering your eyes. This is where your eyes got to be important too.
Yes, sir.
You got to check A to B.
Mm-hmm.
Is what I always say. You got to check inside to out and work through there. You got to go A through B through C and check all the way through the gaps, because you don't know where they're bringing it. The eyes are important, and then you got to keep your feet hot as well.
Oh,
they got to be moving.
Yes.
A lot of running backs.
So why is that important to keep your feet hot?
Well, it's important to keep your feet hot, because how are you going to set your feet when it's ready to time to move?
There you go.
You know, you might have to move laterally, or you might have to move vertically. You know, if your feet is dead and you're not moving, and then you might get knocked back into the quarterback because you done got blowed up, you know, and then, you know, coach is going to lose his top. You know, that's the biggest thing that every running back has to be aware of. You know, you got to get out the way so we can get to the way. You know what I'm saying? So that's the biggest thing that you got to understand as a running back there.
Well, you brought up a lot of great points connected to this topic, man. And anytime that I speak to coaches who work with backs, like, this is always one of the more relevant topics of discussion, because as you know, pass protection is the difference between you seeing the field and not seeing the field.
Yep.
In college, NFL, everybody can run with the ball, but the guy that's going to stay out there is the guy that can pass protect and pick up the pressures. So the question might be, well, how do you learn tendencies? Film study, right? Hang out with the offensive lineman. Okay. You have to understand the center is going to communicate more often than not who the mic is. And in most pass protections, you basically hit it right on the head. More often than not, you're going to have first pass mic, or you're going to have first pass mic, and then release. And then in some protections, you'll have free release, but that's also usually connected with slide protection. Right. But last but not least, you got to understand the odd front, because the even front, it's easy to see that mic. But if you have like that stack or that 3-4, the centers are usually going to point out like two mics here, 2 mics there. And you have to know your rules. And you can't play slow, man. You can't play slow, because if the quarterback is rattled, the passing game is obsolete and it's a wrap. So you know, the passing game is built off timing. But in order for that to remain true, the offensive line must be on the same page as your back, and vice versa.
Yep, and you got to step up, you know, because it could come from play side, or it could come from backside, you know. And that means that goes back to the feet. Your feet got to be moving. You got to step up.
You got to be able to redirect.
Yep, you got to redirect. And then the quarterback kind of feel off. It's kind of like poetry in motion. He'll kind of feel off of your judgment, you know. Where he can step up in the pocket, but you have to step up and meet him with that noise, though. You can't be afraid of contact. Physicality got to be a part of your game. Period.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Great discussion. Now, before I let you go, because you've been working with backs for quite some time, but at one point in time, you were a beginner running back coach. What advice would you give a year one running back coach? Be mindful, this coach never coached a position before. The head coach said, hey, listen, I want you to work with the running backs. What piece of advice would you give this guy or lady to coach this position?
One of the advices I would give them to is definitely get with somebody that has coached it before or played it. That's number one. You always seek mentor advice.
Yes.
With that mentor advice, work through the basics of what your scheme is. You know, don't make up a bunch of drills because it sounds nice. If it doesn't fit to what you guys do, then don't do it. That's the biggest thing I can tell you. The biggest thing is as well, something that keeps it general. See how you guys do going through change of directions, whether that's, you know, going over the bags. You can never go wrong with bag drills. You know, 1 foot, 2 feet. You know, I like read a reaction drills where my backs run into the bag and then they're going side by side as I'm pointing to which side that they plan on.
I like that.
And then when I give a 2 clap, they plan on the last bag, over the last bag, and then they turn their hips and flip them and then run all the way through. That's how you can see people can really change directions like that. It's all about movement. I talked to a DB coach way back when I was working at FBU when I was in my early 20s. And he told me, he said, the biggest thing is movement. And he was talking about from a DB's perspective, but just in general in football. He said movement is key. And that's the same thing that applies to running backs as well. Movement is always key. You know, you got to have a running back that can change directions. If your running back's got good pad level, also pass protect as well. The basics can go over understanding inside leverage of a guy or outside leverage, knowing from where you line up at. Those are basic essentials as well. Also, catching, work on catching. Go over the route tree that you guys run at your high school or wherever you coach at. Go over the basics, understand the route tree, because the coach might try to expand the playbook.
Yes.
You can't always rely on the run. And this is why I tell the guys that I train, biggest thing is what they're looking for now is they're looking for guys that can also run the ball, pass protect, but also catch. Deebo Samuels has changed the game.
Yes, he has.
And Cordell Patterson has changed the game. Those type of guys have changed the game. And the biggest thing is that's what they're kind of looking for now as well. Guys that they can throw in the slot as well. And we always, as running backs, we kind of seen this coming a long time ago, but it's here now. And that's kind of what they're looking at now. You got to have great hands. That's the biggest thing. And being at the Under Armour camp, you see all types of guys. And the talent and the hands was outstanding. You got running backs, they look just like receivers now.
Right.
So that's the biggest thing I would implement as a basics. If you're a first-time running back coach, just go over the basics, change the directions, drills, pass protection, and hands. All that other stuff, you'll get to that as you advance, as I'm still learning myself. But those are the basics, essentials that you need as a running back coach.
Nicely stated, Coach. And I'll leave it right here. Be that assistant coach or be that trainer you want to Sunday hire. And never forget that, man. But excellent point, great detail, and appreciate your insight.
Yeah,
definitely. Well, thank you for listening to the Offseason 365 podcast, man. I'm Coach Simmons here with Coach Fogg, and we signing off.
Appreciate you.
Today's episode is sponsored by Dynasty Athletic Performance and NC Football Connections.